Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Discover the Wonders of the Bilocation Phenomenon. Meet deceased loved ones and experience your eternal self using binaural beats and insights from near-death experiences. My name is Stephen Dinant. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really thrilled to be on an exploration here with you today. I really don't even know what the bilocation phenomenon is myself, and it really offers a sort of a next octave of understanding of how we can bridge between the worlds and really make expand our reality to include those on the other side of the veil in a way that really shifts our lives. And we're going to get to do this with one of the true pioneers of this work. His name is Scott M. Taylor. He is the president of the Expanded Awareness Institute, and he's got a remarkable personal story that we're going to hear more about that leads into what you can do with this bilocation phenomenon. So, Scott, thank you so much for joining us here today.
I'm really glad to be here, Stephen. And I have to say that today started off really in an interesting way, because I walked into the studio to get to know you and set up. And what happened was that I had been wintering some geraniums. And today, get this, check that out. It bloomed today. So wow. I take that as a good sign. The longer I do this kind of work, the more the universe sends me little signs and cues if you're paying attention to them. And I think that the relationship that we have with our participants, it's blooming. I'm not sure what the white flower means yet. We'll have to take comments on that.
Well, white certainly has some elevated consciousness connotations, so I think we're going to get to explore some of that. So I know we're going to have a good deep dive with you here. I do want to let everyone know we're going to have a brand new program with Scott we're very excited about. It's all about this bilocation phenomenon, so we'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the hour. So Scott, let's start with your journey and what led you to this work.
Thank you for asking, Stephen. It started in 1981. I was in love with a woman. Her name was Mary Frances Randall, and she and her son Nolan, who just turned 7, had been out sailing on beautiful Lake Washington in southern Minnesota. And on the way home, what happened was that they were involved in a horrific car accident, and Mary Fran was killed instantly. And Nolan sustained this mortal head injury, and it took him 6 days to make his transition. Luckily, being in southern Minnesota, the both of them were taken immediately to the Mayo Health System, where they got terrific care. And, hats off to those folks. This becomes important because Mary Fran was she was one of 9 children. And Nolan was the eldest of all of the grandchildren in the family. And so that 6 days becomes important because it means that her whole family had a chance to come and gather and lend support to Nolan in the hospital, to hold vigil with him. And there were a ton of us. I mean, not only do you have 8 brothers and sisters, but you got spouses and girlfriends and uncles and aunts and boyfriends and neighbors. And that's just her side of the family. There's my side of the family too. So there was all these people at St. Mary's Hospital. And because there were so many of us, what we decided to do was to take shifts. So 2 of us every 2 hours, and we would go in and be with him. And Nolan was in a coma that he never came out of, but the nurse on the floor was adamant that, hearing is the very last sense to go. And so it was important when we went in on our shifts to be with him that we should talk to him. So as it turns out, my shift was from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning of the 6th day. And when we went in at 3 o'clock, it was with Jannie, who was Mary Fran's oldest sister. And we came and we had Nolan's favorite storybook, so we read him stories. We also told him about the crazy stuff that his uncles were doing. They had gone throughout the Mayo system about midnight and stolen cushions off the couches so they could put them on the waiting room floor and they could be comfortable and catch a little bit of sleep while we were holding vigil. Well, it gets to be about 4:45 in the morning, and Janny, who was a nurse trained in trauma care, goes to the end of the bed. She picks up the clipboard, she looks at it, and she looks at all the monitors that are surrounding Nolan, and she just held out her hand to me and said, "Scott, it's time that we say goodbye." So we pulled up a couple of chairs next to his head, and we told him how much we loved him. And we told him how much and how proud we were of him for being so brave and struggling so hard to be with us. But if his mother should come, remembering that she died 6 days before, but if his mother should come and ask him to go with her, that would be the right thing to do. That would be the right thing to do, to go with your mother. We then reaffirmed that we loved him dearly, and it's now 5 o'clock and we to leave and the next shift comes in. It's not 45 minutes later when the nurse comes in off of the floor and she says, he's starting to decline. It'll be soon. So now it's the time to go in and say goodbye. So all of us that are in the waiting room file into this little hospital room, and there has to be 40 of us. I mean, it is a lot of people. And for whatever reason, I was towards the end of the line. And so when I got in, it was already 4 or 5 deep around the bed. There really wasn't much room. So I wound up just sitting on the windowsill next to Willie, who was Mary Fran's youngest brother. And we sat, and in silence, we just were with him. We were being with him, praying for him. And really the only thing to do is to sit there and watch the heart monitor as it's, doing its thing, and it's slowed and it's slowed. And eventually it flatlined. And when Nolan flatlined, what I experienced was Mary Fran coming across the veil and scooping her son out of his physical body. And they had this exquisite reunion that you could only imagine between a mother and son. And it surprised me because I was able to feel what they felt. And then what surprised me even more was that the two of them turned, came over to me, embraced me, and then the three of us left and went to the light. And I entered into a world that was beyond description. It was this immense energetic field of uncompromising love. It was unconditional. It was joy. It was all of these words that just meant that we were united. I mean, I was united with everything in the universe and with the two of them. And frankly, even though all of that was going on, this love, this ecstasy, this attention, my attention was really only on Mary Fran and Nolan, because we had time and we could communicate with one another. And we had this chance to affirm our relationship, affirm our love and affection for each other. We had a chance to say a proper goodbye, if there is such a thing as a proper goodbye in that situation. And then we had a chance just to be together, to hang out. And then it felt complete. You can't really describe it any better than that. It just felt complete. And then Mary Fran took Nolan's hand and went further into the light. And I then had a chance to come back to my physical body. So that's part one of the story. Part two of the story is that while I'm in the light with Mary Fran and Nolan, all of my consciousness is there. 100% of my consciousness is with Mary Fran, Nolan, and our conversation. And yet at the same time, I am in the room with all of the other relatives and friends. 100% of my attention was also in the room at the same time. And I know this because it was like the love of the universe, the ecstasy, the joy of the universe was just trying to break out of my physical body. And my face had this wonderful expression, this huge grin. And if anybody had looked at me sitting on the windowsill, they would have probably misunderstood it because it looked entirely inappropriate. And so I did the only thing I could do, which was to cover my face with my hands. And I stayed in that posture until, this other part of me came and joined with me there in the room. So I didn't have a word for what that meant. I do now. It's called bilocation, where I had a consciousness that was there with Mary Fran and Nolan, and I had another consciousness that was in the room with with all of the other relatives, both equally consistent, equally aware. And then I had the chance, they came back together again. I collected myself, and then I could take my hands down and go into the room and be with the other grieving relatives and do what we needed to do, the hugs, the tears, the support of each other. That's part two. Part three of this story is we have to flash forward 15 years. And I'm doing my doctoral research at the University of St. Thomas, and I'm studying the leadership qualities of people who've had near-death experiences, because it changes. Well, I needed to find people to interview, and I was struggling a bit, HIPAA laws getting in the way. And so finally, I sent out letters to everybody I knew saying, can you help me out? And I sent letters to all of the Randall clan, because the women in the family, they all wound up being in the medical profession or helping professions, and maybe they knew somebody. Well, one of the sisters, who, by the way, wishes to remain anonymous, so I'm going to call her the sister, writes me back and says, Scott, I had a near-death experience that occurred just a couple years ago, so I'd love to tell you about mine. And we'll save that story for later. But we had this wonderful interview. And at the end of the interview, I'm packing up my recording gear, and I happen to look at the sister, and this thought comes into my head, which is, did you happen, let me say that again. When Nolan made his final transition, something really unusual happened to me. Did anything unusual happen to you? And the sister looks at me, and her eyes get just big as saucers. And she said, well, yes. And taking that as this affirmative answer, I quickly assembled my recording gear, hit record, and told her, I tell you what, you tell me your story first, I'll tell you mine, and then we'll compare notes. This is what she told me. She said, I remember this really well because I was standing bedside and you were across the room sitting on the windowsill next to, Brother Willie. I said, yes, that's right. He said, when Nolan flatlined, what I experienced, meaning the sister, she said, what I experienced was Mary Fran coming across the veil, scooping Nolan up out of his physical body. They had this exquisite reunion, and then the two of them turned to me, embraced me, and the three of us went to the light where we had a chance to say our goodbyes. It was the exact same experience as mine. And it used the language that was almost identical to the language I used. And so in an instant, if I had any doubts, they were gone because this experience was duplicated. She had the same experience I did. It just meant that I could now trust what happened to me, that this bilocation was real, that I had the chance to communicate with Mary Fran and Nolan, and all of that was real and it existed. And I am just so grateful for that gift.
Well,
that's my story, Stephen.
Incredibly inspiring and truly life-changing, and great to have like that level of validation of your experience as well. So I want to sort of, let's go now into like, how does this story become like a template for a process that other people can undertake? And we've talked with William Peters, who's an ally of yours, around the shared death experience, which is another way to describe what you're doing. So it's, how does this start to turn into something that doesn't just happen at random once in our life, but something that we can consciously embrace as a practice? Okay,
so there's just a little bit of background I'd like to say in that. One of the things that happens as a result of having an experience like this is you begin to realize, and this is where a belief turns into a known. A belief happens, yeah, I read this book and it's great. But when it happens to you, you begin to realize that you're more than your physical body, that we exist prior to this physical life. We are now in this physical life where I have this wonderful physical body that gets me around. And then we exist afterwards. And there is this continuum that happens as a result, and that this energy body, this who we are, is this vibrational being, and this vibrational being operates at a level here down in the physical plane. So it's vibrating down here, and those that are dearly departed are vibrating at a higher frequency up here. And what we know is that the veil between this world and the next is really thin. And the only difference between where we are and where they are is this vibratory level. And so what we really try to do is one of two things. They're here, so we can raise our vibratory level up and we can match those that are in the non-physical universe. And as a result, when we are matched, we get to have this wonderful communication. We get to explore the non-physical universe. We get to have happen what happened with Mary Fran Nolan and I, that there is this ability to communicate that is just exquisite. And so when we do this work, we recognize that we have this vibratory body. We have a physical body that vibrates at the level of the physical world. We have a non-physical body where our consciousness resides. And when it's in our physical body, it's at a lower level. But when we leave our physical body, it tends to raise up. And so that's what the work that I do is about, raising people up to the afterlife frequency. And it's not that hard to begin with. And it's also part of this idea that, there are lots and lots of people that have had near-death experiences. The most conservative figure that I have seen is 17 million people in the United States alone. 4 billion people worldwide have had near-death experiences. And that's based on, statistics that are from 1982. So we've done a lot better job of people bringing them back from the edge of death in our hospitals, and EMTs, they do wonderful work now. So this is a path that is really well laid out for us. The idea that we can leave our physical bodies, go up into the non-physical world, have an adventure, and then come back to the physical world. In the US, 17 million people have done that. So we have two things going for us. One is that what we do is put you into that energetic place so that you enter into this wonderful pathway that will take you there. And we have some help through the use of binaural beat technology. It's a sound technology that allows us to raise our vibratory level of both our physical and non-physical bodies to, do this. And we can use some non-technology means through, just through toning and humming and singing or whatever, that we can use to raise up our energy. So that's how we do this, is that it's all about the shift in energy level. And then once you're in that non-physical universe, we give you a whole lot of tools for how to stay there and how to navigate in that space and get the information that you want.
Great. Well, I want to go deeper into those methods in a second. I want to circle back with the person who is dying, the shared death aspect of this. How valuable is it to have somebody who is making that transition to enable this process? Sort of in a way, it's almost like creates like a whirlpool of energy that you can kind of flow with into the other side, other dimension, just like you did, more spontaneously. Or is it really just all about raising our frequency and raising our energy?
So again, there's a little background I want to throw in on that. So what's the difference between a near-death and a shared death experience? Let's start with that. So in a near-death experience, there's some sort of event that happens that's traumatic, say a car crash. And that car crash wounds our physical body so badly that the trauma of it makes the body die. And then our non-physical body leaves, goes up and has, some kind of an adventure. Then bless those EMTs, they're in the physical world and they got the paddles and boom, they shock you and reanimate the body, back you come. And so then you're able to articulate what happened while you were tooling around up here. So trauma is involved. And so let's just say I don't recommend that for exploring the non-physical universe. Shared death experiences, on the other hand, is really quite an extraordinary thing in that there's no trauma involved. I mean, I was sitting on the windowsill next to, Brother Willie. He was right there. And in that case, what happens, why you have this kind of an event is usually the result of a combination of three things. There's a heart connection between the two people. So that's, for Mary Fran and Nolan and me, certainly there was a heart connection. You had to be open and receptive. I was just sitting there on the windowsill watching the heart monitor. And then there needs to be an invitation from those making their final transition to the person who's in the physical room. And when that invitation is made, they can raise up your energy level and off you go. So that's how a shared death experience works. So there's those components of it, and you can actually plan that with your loved ones ahead of time. Well, from that, what we learned is that we can establish relationships on the other side that really assist in this process. We work a lot with guides, and it's about learning how to raise up our vibratory level so that we can enter into that afterlife frequency. And so if there's a desire to enter into the non-physical universe with somebody, those three criteria need to be present. If you just would like to go and explore, all you have to do is learn to raise up that vibratory level, and then you get to tool around. Have your guide show you, cool stuff.
I love that. I get to tool around. Let's circle back with the binaural beats and share a little bit more about that technology and why that's so helpful for this raising of your vibratory pattern.
Sure. Binaural beats have been around for a long time. They were discovered in the 1880s. And essentially what it says is that if you're wearing a headphone and you have a solid tone into one ear, say 100 hertz, and you have a solid tone into the other ear, say 104 hertz, the brain tries to equalize the two. So it sends a message over here and it sends one back and it's saying, I've got 100, I've got 104, and you can't equalize the two. So what the brain does is it sets up a third tone that's independent of those two. It's the difference between them. So all of a sudden now the brain starts to hear 4. So we had 100, 104. So the brain then starts to hear that third tone, which is 4 hertz. And if we were to do that right now, sorry, Stephen, but you'd go off to sleep. It's the frequency of deep sleep. And that breakthrough knowledge became really important because it meant that the brain begins to vibrate. It begins to operate at the difference between the two. And in addition, what it means is that because they're sending signals back and forth to each other so fast, the hemispheres of the brain then stop working independently. They start working as a whole. So you've got both the analytical and the conceptual side now operating as a whole. So we don't have two hemispheres independent. We now have one brain that incorporates both. So it's a lovely thing because, all you have to do is wear a set of headphones, and then the brain will operate at the frequency that you desire just by adjusting the differential between the two. That becomes really important because what we know about near-death experiences and about the afterlife is there are lots of common elements. So, that place where you meet a guide, that operates on a particular frequency. The tunnel, where you go from here to there, that's on another frequency. You go into the light has a different frequency. That place where there's reunions, that's another frequency. So it's taken me close to 25 years to figure all this out about who is at what frequency or what common elements are at each of the different frequencies. And through binaural beats, we can get you into that spot. All you have to do is put on the headphones, be a willing participant, and it will take you there through the natural forces of the body. This is a normal thing that the body does anyway, and we're just putting it there such that we can enter into a specific state of expanded awareness. And the key is to hold it. mean, we go into these expanded states all the time, but they last like 5-8 seconds long. When we do our work, it's at a minimum of, say, 10 minutes, more likely close to a half an hour. And that allows people to be in that space, to practice the tools that we give you. And then you got a little time to go and tool around, just, well, what do you want to do? You got a guide, you go, I want to do X, or I want to do Z. I want to go over here. I want to meet this person. Okay, off you go. And you have the time to do it. So binaural beats happens to be this incredibly powerful tool that allows us to enter into specific states of awareness that operate at a certain frequency, and then hold you in that state gently and easily until it's time to come back. And coming back is, it's like waking up. It's really quickly, and it's all under your control, so it's safe, easy. So there you go.
Amazing how you've really streamlined this process. So if you have somebody that that has died on the other side, you didn't have a shared death experience with them, how do you sort of use this method with the binaural beats and to then find them in specific? Because you can say tool around, but I imagine spirits are sort of tend to be in a particular domain. And if you're wanting to track down somebody in particular, do you work with the guide on the other side? Just maybe share a little bit about how to make that targeted connection that really is going to be most emotionally and even spiritually resonant for you.
Yeah. So at the beginning, just to kind of take you through an exercise, we just calm down. All of us have busy days. So, at the beginning, we do some breathing exercise just to calm things down. And then we raise up our energy level using our physical vocal cords. And then we say an affirmation, which is a really big deal because what we do when we have an affirmation, we put our desires into the energy field that's around us. And so that any being that comes in contact with us, they know instantly who we are and what we want. It's a nonverbal communication. You don't have to tell them in English. You put it into your energy field, and instantly anybody on the other side knows what you're up to. And so then the binaural beats kick in, and we take you to the place where you get to meet your guide. And the guides are really, really helpful as we explore the non-physical universe, because frankly, this is where they live. And they know all the places, they know everything about how things work and how you move from here to there. So we go up, you meet your guide, and you say, I want to meet Uncle Fred. I would love to talk to Uncle Fred. Yeah, I know he died 20 years ago, but can we make that happen? And that's the job of your guide, to say, yep, I know Uncle Fred. We'll go get him, or I'll take you to him. It can work all different kinds of ways. But that is the easiest way to do it. You can do it without a guide too. You just put it into your energy field. And we show people how to do that effectively, so that, when you meet beings on the other side, they know exactly who you are, what your intentions are. Are you, just got a good guy or not? Anyway, so yes, that's how it works.
And do you have recommendations about, once you're making contact with a specific being on the other side, how, are there optimal things to seek to kind of create healing, or, saying goodbye, or specific guidance for this life as well? Do you have recommendations around that, or you kind of just let people explore?
So think of it like this. When you have a contact with Uncle Fred, it's like carry on your relationship from when you had it the last time. And that, at the beginning, you might want to go, how are you? What are you doing? It's just kind of some orientation stuff, but really the objective is to initiate a conscious relationship with somebody on the other side. Let me give you a poignant story about that. So I have maintained a relationship with Nolan ever since he made his final transition in 1981. He's always around. And when we meet up, it's at a very specific place. It's a park. There's a gravel path, and off to the side of the path, there's a chair. I'm sorry, like a bench like you would see in Central Park, with the little scrolly things and wood slats. Anyway, so we go there, and I sit down, and Nolan presents himself to me at different ages, depending it is what he wants to talk about. And because sometimes he'll be 7, sometimes he'll be 45, and well, this time that we sat down, Nolan, he was a young man, I would guess late 20s, early 30s, and he was dressed very formally, like a 50s style suit. It's black, tight to the body, skinny tie, white shirt, and then that tie clip that's too high. Anyway, so he sits down next to me, and he's got a briefcase on his lap, and he opens up the briefcase, and in the briefcase there's a gun and a pistol. And what he tells me is that he is living another life right now, and that in that life he's been trained as something like a U.S. Marshal-ish. And even though he's been trained, he's never had to shoot anyone, and he just did. He took another person's life in the line of duty. And he came to me as like a young boy would come to a father, to say how distraught he was and how this was breaking his heart. And we had a chance to talk, father and son. Now, I wasn't his biological father, but, we were working on that relationship. But we had a chance to continue that relationship and talk about deep, meaningful issues, because we had learned how to do that, and he trusted me and I trusted him. And so I think the answer to your question in a short way is to say, talk about something that's meaningful between the two of you. And in this case, that's what showed up. And it also has, I think, significant implications for how do we gain wisdom? Is it just from this life, or are we getting information from our other lives at the same time? It opens up this whole realm of possibilities that is fun to explore and can be really meaningful to both of you.
Really profound. And I'd love you to share a little bit more just around how your own worldview and daily life has evolved as a result of taking 25 years of practice in this arena and really developing these practices. How does it start to really shift the baseline of how you engage life?
Oh, wow. I could talk for about 4 hours on that one, but yeah, thanks for opening up that rabbit hole. I think the thing that has changed me most profoundly is this sense that when we move into the non-physical universe, we leave duality and we enter into a universe of unity. where everything is connected to everything else. It's what happened to me, when I first entered into the light with Mary Fran and Nolan. And knowing that we are all just individuated bits of this immense love that is the universe, has really informed how I think about things. Meaning, here in the physical universe, this universe of duality, it's run by the words either or. So I am me, Stephen is Stephen, and we are different. It's either me or Stephen. Okay. But when you move into the non-physical universe, what you begin to realize is that it's run by different words. And the words are both and. So that means that I am me, Stephen is Stephen. So we are individuals, yes. And we are also part of this collective whole that is the human experience. So quite literally, we are all brothers and sisters. We are made up of the same stuff. It also means that we can never be separated from the love of the universe. Or for those of you that are religiously inclined, you cannot be separated from the love of God. Because we are made up of that love. And we are individuals, yes, we are part of this collective whole, and that collective whole is also part of all things physical and non-physical that's in the universe. Everything is tied together through the love of the universe. So I had an interview with this really amazing woman who was talking about what that felt like. And I'll never forget her answer to me. She said, Scott, if I were to reach out and strike you, literally what I would be doing would be to reach out and strike myself. Why would I do that? That makes no sense. How is it that we can look at the world as though we are all interconnected and we are individuals? So, Stephen, from a fundamental sense, it has changed me in how I look at myself and my relationship to other people. And this idea that, that we live forever and that this is just a very temporary stop in a quite long-lived life. It gives you another lens, gives you another perspective. Like, don't take things so seriously. I mean, honestly, this is just a blip on the screen. Your job, meaning my job, is to learn from it and then move on with that wisdom, add that wisdom to the collective whole. So it's quite a profound change.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. It really is so powerful of what can happen. Is there anything else that you were wanting to share just about sort of the understanding of how the other side works and our engagement with it around energy bodies, or anything that you were wanting to bring forward that you haven't got a chance to yet?
Yeah, thank you. This is a process that let me put it this way. I said that the veil is really thin. And I really mean that you can have relationships with those who are departed, and they can be quite meaningful. And you can have relationships here in the physical. I was in love with Mary Fran. She's not here in the physical right now. I am married to an amazing woman. Her name's Anne. And Anne and I have this wonderful relationship, really quite extraordinary. And I think it's because that that grief that I went through at the loss of Mary Fran and Nolan opened me up to be able to love more fully here in the physical world. So these skills that we learn are really applicable to living our life with more joy here in the physical. So there's it's an extraordinary thing that through learning who we are, and learning different lenses from which to view our life, we gain this perspective, we gain this wisdom that allows us to be here in the physical and really take advantage of the extraordinary thing that is the physical life, the physical universe. Yeah, so that's my last bit there.
Well, Scott, there's just a wealth of new perspectives and really healing transformational experiences can open up with this work. So thank you for pioneering it, and really a pathway to not just have an inspired story to share with people, but a pathway to grow and evolve and really transform our lives. So let's talk explicitly about how people can do that with your upcoming program, which we're very excited about. It's called the Bilocation Phenomenon. Project your consciousness into the spirit realm to move beyond grieving and find solace as you easily reconnect with deceased loved ones and pets. You can find it at the URL bilocationcourse.com, bilocationcourse.com. It's a 7-week program. There's no prerequisites, and it really is just if you feel intuitively drawn to this has good medicine for you. There's going to be something to learn, open, heal with deceased relatives or pets or friends or allies, or that you just want to learn these technologies to explore beyond this physical plane. So, Scott, I'd love for you to share on the high level where overall, maybe on a broad level, where you'll be taking people, and then I'll read out the module title so you give us a preview of what's coming in each.
Sure. On a high level, what we want to do is discover this pathway into the non-physical universe. It has so much to teach us, and there is so much solace that can be gained from knowing that we have a non-physical body, that body exists forever, and we move then beyond belief into knowns, because we want you to experience it and feel it and know it in every fiber of your being. That's where we're going. It's a path to the heart.
Beautiful. Module 1, engage with your subtle body to clear, recharge, and renew your energy, unlocking the power of your inner self.
So that's our first week. What we're going to do is lay down a foundation for how to discover our non-physical bodies, how to energize them, how to put intent into it. It is that vibrational state that's really helpful to become comfortable with as we explore the non-physical universe.
Module 2, meet your spirit guide to feel supported, connected, and empowered on your journey through life.
In this one, we meet the most important relationship you'll ever have on the other side. This is the guide that knows where everything is, knows how to get things done, and is your best supporter. So that relationship, really critical. And then that guide, with the help of that guide, we're going to teach you the skill of bilocation right there in week number 2. That idea that you can be in the non-physical world and you can have your other foot in the physical world. So it's a wonderful skill that's easy to learn and is really, really helpful as we tool around the non-physical world. There's that word again.
You like tooling around over there.
I
Module
do.
3, explore the tunnel to expand your awareness, enhance your energy body, and navigate the transition to the non-physical.
So the tunnel is this transition device. It allows us to easily move from the physical into the non-physical. And the tunnel itself is an extraordinary structure. It's got all kinds of music and colors and history. It will teach us all about sensations, because there's like 8 different ways that we can interpret information that's coming to us. Tunnel, really helpful in getting us from here to there.
Module 4, radiate gratitude as an energetic bridge you can cross to find a sense of belonging and inner peace in the clear light of love.
Yeah. So when people have a near-death experience or a shared death experience, they will enter into the light. And there are 3 kinds of light. There's white light, black light, and clear light. Each of them is extraordinary. This loving, amazing space. And so in this one, we are going to be introduced to the clear light of love. It's the kind of experience that I had. It was a clear light experience. And in that, we are going to learn how to build bridges of love between those of us in the physical and those of us in the non-physical. So it's a really helpful tool to begin to hook up and be with other entities and to exchange information.
Module 5, enjoy a reunion with your transitioned loved ones and pets to be reminded you're never alone and address your ego's fears.
This is just great, because it's a chance for us when people have this transition experience, they'll go to one of the very first things that'll happen is a reunion with departed loved ones and friends. And I'm glad you mentioned it, pets. They are there too, because they love us, we love them. And so they're there. We get to have people invite them. So we get to then say questions like, what are you doing now? And they'll come back and say, well, what have you learned from your life in the physical? So again, we get to start having conversation with those people that we have loved in the past that are no longer with us.
Module 6, meet a being of light to experience the joy of sharing your total self with another for deep reassurance and healing.
Stephen, this is probably one of the most sacred experiences that I have ever had, is this ability to meet a divine being and then to merge with that energy and begin to know at a truly fundamental level what the love and the intelligence of the universe is all about, and how we can be unconditionally loved and not judged. This will be an extraordinary week.
And finally, Module 7, experience and embody your new sense of expanded beingness. Change yourself to change your life.
So this was about, we've had 6 weeks together. We'll learn something like 40 tools to learn how to navigate in the physical universe. We'll have all of these wonderful experiences, gained all kinds of wisdom. But how do we bring that home? How do we begin to live what it is that we really have discovered? And that's what this week is about. It's living the wisdom that we have gained. In my world, we call that patterning. Some people call that manifestation. This is a great intro to how to manifest things in your life. So it's about wrapping things up so that you can then move forward and live the love that you've discovered, if that's what you like to do.
Well, what a beautiful offering, and it's really just it's a culmination of your multiple decades of work in this area. So again, you can find the whole program laid out in detail at bilocationcourse.com, bilocationcourse.com. So not only you get the 7 90-minute live sessions with Scott, where you're going to get not only the theory, you're going to get practices, you're also going to get Q&As that you can do with him and interactive exercises. You'll also get recordings of every session, video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There are weekly exercise for home, a Facebook community to support and deepen your experience, as well as breakout sessions to really engage and deepen your experience with a community around the world. On the page, you'll also see a number of extra bonuses that enhance your journey. There's something called a video teaching from Scott and Dr. Charlene Nicely called Unveiling the Hidden Magic of NDE Affirmations, why NDE affirmations work. Scott, you want to share a little bit about that?
We talked a little bit about that before, that you take your intentions and put them into your energetic field. And there are ways to do that that are more effective, and how to use symbolic language, how to use nonverbal language, emotion, so that whenever you're in exploring the non-physical universe, all of those intentions that you have put into your affirmation are present, and it really facilitates the traveling now, not tooling around, traveling the non-physical universe.
I kind of like tooling around. It's fun. On the page, you'll also see another a special bonus that's available only until midnight tonight. This gives you a little extra incentive to tune in now. And if you get the sense that this is the right next step for you, then you got an extra bonus for signing up today. It's called How Boris Can Help, the Value of a Non-Physical Spirit Guide. An intriguing title. It's a video interview with Scott and Suzanne Giesman, who's one of our favorite faculty members. Scott, you want to share a little bit about what you're going to be doing in that bonus?
I've known Suzanne for a long time, and early on, she had a non-physical guide that helped her do her mediumship work. He was like the chief executive officer on the other side who lined up everybody for her and make sure that they were the right people and they knew what they needed to know, and just an incredibly important, effective person for her to do mediumship work. Well, you heard me talk about guides being really important. It's the same kind of thing. And she has some interesting thoughts about how you get one, what kind of relationship do you have, how do you have a better relationship with your guide, communication tips. Oh, it's just filled with really, really helpful tidbits for enhancing that relationship.
Well, it's a beautiful extra reason to sign up by midnight tonight, since you two are going to be great in dialogue there. So it's an exciting program, really opening new horizons to take all the interest and curiosity around near-death experiences and shared death experiences and turning it into a path of real transformation for you. We've kept the investment really accessible for the program. It's just 3 payments of $128. You save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start April 26th, run Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with recordings, transcripts, and community as well. And I always highly encourage you to go to the page, read through, tune in with yourself, but also read the testimonials, because those give you a window into the kind of life changes that can happen when you engage this. And unforgettable experience, one of the most life-changing experiences of my life. There's a lot of great testimonials about the power of Scott's teaching and practices and how it can really open you to a multidimensional life. So you're in for a treat, you're in great hands, and you'll get to tool around on the other side and experience some really magical new possibilities. And I think you're going to be in for a great adventure. So again, you can find all the details at bylocationcourse.com, and get the special bonus with Scott and Suzanne about working with guides when you sign up by midnight. So Scott, it's been a great hour with you, really eye-opening. Loved your opening story and the implications that you've really unfolded for your whole life. So anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper with you on this journey?
Thank you, Stephen. And this has been a delight to have a conversation with you. So thank you for that. And to thank you all for hanging in there and watching this whole thing. It may seem counterintuitive, but in this this process of going through this course, we're going to discover that we live forever, that we have this energetic body, that we will continue to learn both from the other side and from here in the physical world. And we're talking about death and transition the whole time. Here's the counterintuitive part. This course will probably be more fun than one person should have. We have a blast. We approach this with joy and humor and treat it as a grand adventure, because it really is. It's filled with love and hope and reunion. I think you're going to want to be with us, and I hope you'll join Dr. Charlene Nicely and me for our 7 weeks together. It promises to be quite extraordinary.
Quite extraordinary indeed. Well, thank you, Scott, for your pioneering work and your great stories and your deep heart. And thank you all for joining, and hope you learned as much as I did. And look forward to seeing you in the program if you feel called. So that's at bilocationcourse.com, and it's called The Bilocation Phenomenon. Project your consciousness into the spirit realm to move beyond grieving and find solace as you easily reconnect with deceased loved ones and pets. So many blessings, and remember, you get that special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. Thank you all.